The night had always been my favorite time, not because it was quiet in the ordinary sense, but because it was a quiet that allowed me to feel my own thoughts in ways I never could during the day. There's a strange intimacy to the darkness. The world outside is fast, loud, unforgiving. But inside, alone, with the faint hum of electricity and the slight groan of the old building settling, you can hear your own heartbeat in ways that are almost spiritual. That night, I had gone to bed early. My eyes had barely shut before I felt that strange, tingling awareness that sometimes precedes the unusual. I rolled over on my mattress, tucking the blanket around my shoulders, trying to convince myself it was just fatigue. The quiet crept in like a living thing, stretching along the walls, pooling in the corners of the room. And then I heard it, my name, not shouted, not whispered, just called, calm, clear, familiar, yet impossible. At first, I froze. The rational part of my mind screamed that it was impossible. I live alone. I have always lived alone. My neighbors were either asleep or on another floor. There is nothing in my apartment that could make a sound like that, and yet it had called my name. I couldn't tell if my eyes were open or closed. The darkness was thick. The shadows pooled around my bed. I felt my pulse rise. I told myself, it's just your mind. It's nothing. I tried to move, tried to roll onto my side, pull the blanket tighter, ignore it. But the voice came again. My name. Same tone, same calm cadence. This time it felt closer, like it was right there in the corner of my room. I didn't move immediately. Fear does strange things. It slows you down instead of making you run. I lay there, listening to the apartment. The sound of the fridge humming, the distant creaks in the building's old frame, the soft whisper of air moving through the vents. Each sound, normally unnoticed, became a potential herald of the unknown. I finally swung my legs off the bed, bare feet touching the cold wooden floor. My phone sat face down on the nightstand, silent. I picked it up anyway, flipping it over. No notifications. Nothing to explain what I had heard. I moved to the bathroom. Every creak of the floorboards magnified. The mirror reflected only me. My pale face, wide eyes, tense jaw. I brushed my teeth slowly, deliberately, letting the mundane act occupy me while my ears strained for any further sound. The voice did not return. Not yet. I returned to my bedroom. My mind replayed the sound, over and over. It was real, I whispered to myself, and immediately scolded myself for saying out loud. I sat on the edge of the bed, feet on the floor, hands clasped, staring at nothing in particular. My thoughts began to spiral. Could it be a neighbor? Was it my imagination? Had I ever felt this way before? Each answer was unsatisfactory. My chest tightened. The air felt heavier. I noticed the clock again. 2:17 a.m. It had not moved. I swear the second hand did not tick. I began to imagine the shadows moving, just slightly, just enough to suggest presence. I held my breath and listened. The silence was absolute, except my name, whispered, closer this time. I finally stood. My legs felt heavy. Every step toward the hallway seemed like an eternity. The floorboards groaned beneath me. My own apartment felt alien. The air smelled colder, almost metallic. And then, as I reached the doorway, the voice came again. Clear, precise. My name. It was right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. The hallway stretched out, dimly lit, longer than it should have been. Every shadow felt like it had weight, like it could move independently of the room. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. I stepped into the hallway. The temperature dropped. My breath formed faint clouds in the air. I tried to convince myself to turn around, to return to bed. But curiosity, that dangerous companion, kept me moving forward. The voice did not call again immediately. Silence, heavy, thick, pressing against my ears. I paused mid-step, listening to the creaks of the building. Somewhere behind me, I thought I saw the light flicker, and then a shadow moved, Not a full figure. Not a human. Just a hint of movement in the corner of my eye. My footsteps were slow, deliberate. Each creak of the floorboard sounded magnified, echoing through the empty apartment. I felt like I was moving through someone else's space, not my own. Shadows pulled at the edges of my vision. The walls seemed to breathe, stretching and contracting ever so slightly. I wanted to turn back, but the voice had planted a seed of curiosity that refused to let go. I paused mid-step, listening. Silence. And then a faint whisper of my name, almost like a sigh, came from the living room. I swallowed hard, trying to control the sudden tightening in my chest. Each breath felt loud, too loud. I reminded myself, this is an old apartment. Old buildings make noises. The mind exaggerates them. But even as I said it, the hairs on my arm stood up. I stopped at the threshold of the living room. The air felt heavier here. My mind began to wander, circling old fears I thought I had outgrown. Childhood memories of waking to strange noises. Nights when I thought someone was in the house. The voices of my parents long gone. And now, this voice, this impossibly calm, eerily precise voice calling my name. I replayed it in my head over and over. Was it me imagining it? Was I losing control of reality? The quiet of the apartment seemed to mock me. I took a slow step forward, then another, each one echoing louder than the last. And suddenly, a memory hit me. A dream I had a week ago, a nightmare where I was trapped in my apartment. The walls seemed to close in. And in the dream, I heard the exact same voice. My name. Calm. Waiting. I reached the center of the living room. The air had a strange metallic scent now. My pulse was deafening in my ears. The voice came again, this time behind me. I froze, not because I was surprised, but because instinct told me to. My reflection in the nearby window showed me standing still, yet something about it felt wrong. I turned slowly. Nothing. And yet I could feel it. Presence. Watching. Waiting. The floorboards creaked subtly, but there was no one there. I whispered my own name to break the tension. Divine. The voice answered. My own name. Calm. Clear. Disturbing. I backed toward the kitchen, trying to stay composed, trying to convince myself this was all in my head. But the air itself seemed alive. The shadows stretched farther than the light should allow. The clock ticked slowly. 2:18 a.m. Time itself felt wrong. And then I saw it. A flicker in the corner of my vision. Too fast to be real, yet too detailed to ignore. I spun around. Nothing. And then I noticed my reflection in the microwave door. My own face pale and tense, yet the expression in the reflection. It was smiling. And I was not. The voice whispered again, softer this time. You're awake now. My heart leapt. The hairs on my arms and neck bristled. I could feel its presence, not behind me, but all around me. I tried to call out, tried to move. My legs refused to cooperate. My mind spun, circling memories, fears, doubts. I realized I had been awake, frozen, hearing my own name for nearly 20 minutes, and the voice had never left. I finally stood frozen in front of the mirror. My reflection stared back at me, but it was wrong. Too still, too perfect. And then it smiled. Slowly, deliberately. Its mouth moved before I did. You finally heard me, it said, using my own voice. I stumbled back, hand reaching for the wall to steady myself. My brain refused to process it. Panic tried to overtake me, but I forced my breathing to slow. The reflection tilted its head, mirroring me exactly, except for that smile, wide, knowing, impossible. I whispered, barely audibly, Who are you? Silence. And then the voice repeated, soft and calm. I am always here. I tried to step away. My feet felt stuck, glued to the floor. Every shadow in the room seemed to lean closer. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The voice spoke again, softer, almost intimate. You cannot hide. I closed my eyes, telling myself it was my imagination. When I opened them, the reflection was gone. The room was empty, but I could still feel the presence. I reached for the lights. Nothing. The room remained dim, shadows stretching impossibly long across the walls. I whispered my own name again. The reply came instantly, from inside my own head this time. I've been waiting. I tried to leave. My legs obeyed, but the hallway stretched endlessly. Every step forward felt like moving through water. The voice followed, soft, almost whispering in rhythm of my heartbeat. You cannot leave, it said. I turned to run back, but the apartment seemed larger, distorted. Doors I had passed were not where they should be. The ceiling stretched higher than normal, and through it all, the voice whispered my name over and over. I stumbled into the living room again. The mirror was back. The reflection smiled. Its eyes bore into mine, and I realized I had never really left the apartment. I had been trapped in the same space, looping as the voice toyed with me. Morning came, but it was not relief. The sun spilled into my eyes, harsh and blinding. I was sitting in the living room, knees pulled to chest, trembling. The apartment looked normal now. No shadows stretched. No distortions. The clock read 6:13 a.m., time moving normally. I don't remember leaving the apartment the night before. The landlord told me it had been empty for years, ever since the last tenant vanished. No record of anyone else living there. I packed my things immediately. I left keys on the counter, never looked back. But even now, months later, when the clock ticks 2:17 a.m., I feel it again. My name, softly, and I know it is closer than ever. I moved cities, changed my number. I never returned to that building. And yet, every night, I hear it. My name. Calm, clear, waiting. And I know one day it will find me again.